Well, I think we'll just start this one off as the start of a informal vlog type thing about the 1984 Honda Interceptor, and this is my buddy's 84 Interceptor that I've been just kind of going through to try to figure out if we can get this thing running. He bought it non-running. I mentioned this in the last video, but I was a little intoxicated in the last video, so how about this will be the start of the new video series. You don't want an informal video, click off this one. It's not going to be for you. I'm just going through this thing now, and I just adjusted all 16 valves. All 16 valves were out of spec on this thing. Every one of the reds was out of spec. I had two very tights on the intakes on cylinder number 4, which isn't cool. The rest of them, they all had some tolerance, or they all had some clearance, but I happened to run into this on mine as well, and I didn't see any signs of damage, but I mean, you don't want to see that, but I don't see any damage yet. So I think we're going to be able to get a runner out of this. That's my plan for the rest of this weekend, even though it's like -5 degrees outside. I want to see if I can get this thing started. Did last night was I took the clutch cover off, and I was trying to get this cover off here and had all the bolts out, and I'm positive there aren't any more bolts in it, and I could not get it off. That thing is goddamn glued on with that gasket. It is on there, and the reason I wanted that thing off is because I wanted to get a 14 on here so I could spin the motor with a breaker bar and move the cams around, measure under them. I could not do that because I could not get this off. Now I probably I was taking some soft hammer blows to it, just trying to knock it around. I was trying to drive a blade through this part just to get a little separation somewhere, but you don't want to go too hard because you don't want to damage any of these mating surfaces, and I can actually feel I broke a little piece off. This thing is really goddamn glued on there. So there's another way that you can move it. So what I did is I put the thing into 6th gear, and I pulled those spark plugs out, and if I want to, I can take the rear wheel and I can spin it this way. So I am now in spec on all the valves. Calls for 0.004 on the intakes, 0.005s on the exhausts. The 86 revised that to 0.005 to 0.006, and I basically got all of them. Oh shit, I forgot to write those two down. But I've got all of them where I want them to be on the loose end of tolerance. Did it with 2 feeler gauges, an 8mm wrench, and a little Motion Pro 3mm square head to actually adjust the tappet. So it's kind of a pain in the nuts. I have one of only 2 good videos I've ever shot was about the valve clearance on this. So that one, if you're looking to figure out how to do that, check out that one. It's one of the only 2 videos of mine I'll ever recommend. The rest of them all are a bunch of horse shit, which is what this one is probably going to be. So now I've got to get the valve covers back on here. I've got to get the cooling, the radiator back on. I've got to get coolant in it. I dumped all the oil out. I put the old filter back on because I'm probably going to run it for a little while. I'm going to put new Rotella T4 in it. I'll probably run it just a couple times while we're idling. Then or maybe even run it a little. I'm not even going to be able to ride for quite a while. So I have a new filter. We'll put that on once it gets running with another set of new oil. Pull the spark plugs out. These are all NGK's DPR8EA9s. The good thing about that is I got about 30 of these things. I don't even know where they came from, but I have all new ones ready to go. Just check the spark plug gaps on those. They weren't too far off of where they're supposed to be. They don't all look great, but I mean, that's how spark plugs on these things end up looking after a while. And I did pull out DP8EA9s. That's what I am going to be putting in. They're all 0.036 to 0.039. These things come gapped from the factory. I checked all of them, 0.034, and manual calls for 0.031 to 0.035. So I just put some anti-seize on all of these. These will be ready to go put in. This is the rear valve cover, and something I've been noticing is that there was likely issues with that petcock leaking. I had an explosion about vacuum-operated petcocks in a recent video, and I have a feeling this is going to be another instance of it. This discoloration by itself probably doesn't mean much. However, I noticed this. This is the vacuum port that should run from the vacuum-operated petcock. This, in fact, is a hose with a screw stuck in it. So I don't know when somebody did that. I don't know if it was after they pulled out the carburetor originally, because this thing was bought non-running, carburetor in a box rolling around. So I think somebody pulled the carburetor off, realized these things are fucking confusing to go through, and gave up. And maybe they poured it or just blocked it off after that, or maybe Maybe that has some other reason that they did it. I have no idea. But I'm seeing like 1,000 things that I want to go through right now, but I'm not doing it yet until I get it running. Like, I know I want to get the brakes off, and I know it's going to be mud in there. I know I want to start cracking into these. I did buy some stuff to try to see if I can restore this, because even if I can't do this one, I could do that one. It's interesting having this side by side with mine, because I'm seeing how many issues I have with mine that weren't apparent because I didn't have another bike to compare it against. So this bike, really well maintained. I mean, this thing it's been with me for like 16 years and lived a hard life before that, and it just keeps kicking some ass. But so I mean, Ken McKee here, who I still crack up every time I see that somebody carved their name into the gas tank. I mean, they did a pretty damn good job. But the one thing, the biggest fight I've ever had with this bike is trying to get these front forks aligned. And you could see, I just put it up on the wheel chuck here because I'm going to try something new. You can see just how far off these are. And I've bought 6 different forks. I know these forks are straight. I am 100% positive. Like, they're not straight in here on the triple clamps. These stanchions are straight. The tubes are straight. I am positive about that, and these are rebuilt. So what I'm going to try to do, loosen this thing up, just crank on it. I was trying to do it on last year on this pole, but maybe this, because I didn't have the wheel chock before, I will be able to get it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna see if I can remember how to put the valve covers back on, carburetor back in. Oh God, I didn't even remember. We got the old insulators. Oh, this is gonna be tough. Those old insulators, the old intake boots, that's not going to be fun to seat them. Gonna be using the hair dryer, red rubber grease, and 2 little flat screwdrivers to try to get it seated. Done it before with old insulators. It's a bitch, but I think I'll be able to get it. See if I can get this thing going. See if we can run it outside when it's negative 10 degrees. And yeah, I basically just talking to myself, looking at this thing, looking at that one, seeing what I did wrong on that one, seeing what is wrong or missing on this one, comparing the two. It's useful to be able to do that. If nothing else, it's been interesting to see these side by side. I do fucking love the look of these bikes. They're just so damn cool. They just are. And then I just really, really want to be able to ride again. So this here is a look at some of the old oil, and then I've got some new Rotella in here. Doesn't really mean much. I was just kind of curious what it looked like compared to what was going in. And what I'm doing now, before I button any of this up, is just going around and gonna roll it around and just keep getting as much oil as I can on all of these cams. So I just got all of these covered now. I'm gonna roll it around a bit more and just try to get both sides of every cam covered in oil, because this thing could have run 10 years ago for the last time, for all I know. They felt like they had some on it, but they weren't like wet with oil, and I want them to be wet with oil. Oh, the other thing, probably gonna smoke when we start it, because I put some oil down the cylinders before I started rolling it around, just in case they were kind of frozen up. They weren't, but there's oil in the cylinders now. One thing that's important on these valve covers is to torque these down. These are 6 to 9 foot-pounds, which 9 foot-pounds is 108 inch-pounds. Just going crisscross on this, and these are real easy to strip. I'm always nuts about these because of the fact that I stripped them on that once, and it's such an ordeal to fix it after it happens that it's worth it to go to Harbor Freight and just get yourself one of these. If anything, it just keeps you in check. You think, like, if you got a leak somewhere along here, oh, just crank these things down tighter. That's not how it works. If anything, it's the rubber that's under these that probably gives first. So if you got a leak under this gasket, it's probably worth replacing these, which have a rubber piece under them. Those probably went before this gasket went. So I'm just putting all these to 108 right now. For spark plugs, this always threw me off. It's not a 5/8 or an 11/16 or anything like that. It's actually an 18, which I didn't have in some of my sets, and this thing barely fits in there. But I've got a little anti-seize on there, and I'm just going to get it started with my hand so I know I'm not cross-threading it, so I can see it's going in there pretty freely. But if you'll see, this 18, it barely fits in that bore. Like, if this socket was a 1/4 millimeter bigger, it would not fit. So if you got like some thick sockets, it's not going in. And that threw me through a loop the first time I did it, and again just now when I was taking them out a while back. And then these don't have to be crazy tight either. That should be fine. Get the other ones in. I'm taking this stupid horn off right now. 2 reasons. One, if we end up going to steel braided lines, because this is a 3-piece, the access to this is really tough, especially with this plastic piece here that just gets in the way. I'm not even sure what that plastic piece is really for. Probably weather protection on something. 2, now I just remember there's 3 reasons. 2, I might be able to use the head lift stand to actually lift this instead of hanging out from the ceiling when we want to pull the forks off. 3, again, this plastic piece gets in the way when you're trying to put the radiator back on. This will make it easier. And then it'll be up to the owner of the bike if he wants to put the stupid horn back on. Because they really don't check them here, whether or not you have them. And nobody can hear them anyway, so it's just an ornament. That children's book about dinosaurs, All My Friends Are Dead. I'm starting to feel like all of my friends are old motorcycles that may or may not run, and none of them particularly care for me. But what I'm doing now, I pulled the front fairing off of mine. I'm going to pull the tank off of it. Might as well get to the petcock and see if I can deal with that thing. More importantly, though, I want a reference on this one to see how I need to set this one back up. And I also will get the opportunity to see why my front end, oh, that doesn't look so bad. Maybe I had just had it cocked up in how I was lined up before. Maybe we do have this. Okay, maybe I just had it way off and how I had it in there earlier. But yeah, I'm taking Ken McKee's tank off, and what the fuck? I was looking at this. I was looking at the rear shock because I know that the rear shock is something I want to do on mine. The reason it's something I want to do on mine, this is actually hilarious. I was wondering if it was broke and shot, and I asked about this on a forum before, because I was like, well, that doesn't sound good. There is a spot where you can air up the shock. I don't know, I'm guessing it's like 13 to 15 psi or something like that, and because it is air adjustable. But what I'd heard from somebody that knows these bikes inside and out, when I'd asked about is my shock shot, he said, is it a stock shock? If it is, it's shit. Every stock shock on these bikes is shit. And this shock has always been like that. The thing droops. So they at some point I'm going to do a Hagen or a YSS or a Jamie Doherty shock on that one. I was just leaning towards YSS because it's the cheapest of them, but I kind of want the Doherty one. And then it would make sense to do it on this one as well. I'm now seeing though that I want one of these put together at all times so I can use the other one as a reference. This is just pretty fucking awesome to be able to do that. So tank off and cooling system back on that one. I got the radiator back on the bike, got the coils back on the bike, didn't put the heat shield back on the bike, and I've been going nuts trying to find the insulators, the intake boots for these, because I've got that carburetor that I rebuilt a while back, and I've been wanting to put it back on this bike, and I've been looking everywhere. I know it looks like there's a lot of shit going on in here, but it's kind of organized chaos. Like if you ask me where something is, I couldn't explain to somebody where it is, but I could find it. But I cannot find where those insulators are. So I started texting my buddy back and forth, trying to figure out if he left them at his house or if I have them somewhere here. I have not lost it. However, it is not at my house, so I cannot put this on now, which is probably all right. We'll see if I'm gonna go driving around in, God, I don't even think we're breaking 0 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. It's actually really good that I'm looking at this though, because I'm now seeing that I don't have any fluid in my coolant reservoir, and that shouldn't look like that. It shouldn't look like that at all. So it's a kind of a double check on all of this. So I think I've decided what I'm going to call this informal little vlog series is Orwell's Interceptors, because of the 1984 reference, and because there's going to be no useful information in it. Well, Orwell's book has a lot of useful information in it, so maybe it's not the most apt description of it. But I'm calling it Orwell's Interceptors because, I don't know, that'll be fun. I got to move the battery from this one to this one because the battery that he gave me, I'm looking at the cells inside of here, And what he told me is this thing's pretty new, and I'm looking, and there's some dry cells in here. Now, I can fill this thing up with distilled water on all of them, and I probably will, just to see if I can get a charge on it. I was afraid to put the electrodes on it because I don't, anything with electricity scares me, so if I don't feel 100% confident about it, I pretty much just do not do it. So I'm gonna cut this one short. I wish I would have had the carburetor back on there, and I wish I could get it started tomorrow. And maybe I will. Super Bowl tomorrow, I guess, if you care. I guess Tom Brady's still playing. That's kind of fun. Anyway, if you watched this far, thanks for watching. Sit rep. Apparently this is going to be a longer video than I intended originally. I don't have the insulator boots because they are at my buddy's house. At that point, I think I'm just going to order new insulator boots for $9 a boot, $36 total. But I still need the clamps from him, so I cannot put the carburetor inside of this. So I'm going to actually tear into a couple things that I wasn't planning to, and I guess I'll watch the Super Bowl during it. I just flipped the battery from that one over to this one, and most disheartening thing ever is electrical problems. So I know that I've got my brights working. That's good. We've got daytime running lights on both the right and the left, which is good. If I go to the left side, got the clicky, 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 clicky. We've got left turn signals, and we've got 2 rear brake lights. That's cool. I like that. Oh, I didn't actually check this. Can I get to neutral? Can I get... We got a neutral light. All right, so we've got that. Got almost all of it. Let's try the... Okay, so we've got daytime running light on. Now, however, if I put the right turn signals on, that one turns off. And, well, these wouldn't be on normally anyway, so... I mean, there's an electrical issue. Potentially, it could just be bulbs, so I'm going to see... I can't remember what these bulbs are. I might actually have some here. I'm going to replace those, and maybe we won't have to chase any electrical things. Or maybe we will. I did on VFR World, somebody had recommended a new product to try to restore the plastic on these. Some kind of weather sealant type thing. Or, yeah, like the weathering stuff that you find on the inside of a car door that I just ripped off of mine because it's negative 10 degrees when I tried to open my truck, and it just ripped the entire fucking thing off earlier today. Yeah, I'm going to try some of that on here. The other thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the rear brake and the 2 front calipers off. I know that the pistons I pulled out of that one are not bad, and they're absolutely reusable. Obviously, these ones aren't leaking, so I'm going to pull them all out. I can't believe it. I was able to crack the 2 screws on the top of here, and they do not look good. I got them in the Evaporust right now, but they've been kind of mangled. If you don't get a good bite on a JIS screwdriver, and if you're trying with a Phillips, you're fucked. Just don't even do it. On a JIS, if you don't get a good bite on these, there's no good way to get them out, because drilling into it is, I mean, that sucks, but it might be the only way. But all of this is plastic, and it's not like you can use heat unless you want to, you know, see how big of a fire you can make. I haven't cracked the clutch one open yet because I know that we want to redo. We want to. I know I want to rebuild the slave clutch completely. That one on mine, it was leaking. Like, I'd seen fluid on the ground. I didn't know what it was from. I guarantee this one is about to go if it hasn't gone yet. Now, it hasn't gone yet, and the clutch still works. On this side, I've got a super goddamn spongy brake. If I pop this open, I looked into it. It's not, you know, pretty, but unlike... Oh, you don't want that. Ah! Don't do that! I'm gonna fucking melt paint. I mean, what does it matter? Nobody's gonna see it. Mine on that one was all crystallized. This is not all crystallized. This will be able to flush all the way through, so that's all right. We're gonna get a totally dry system. And then the nice thing on this bike is that the front calipers are identical to the rear caliper. You could move the rear caliper up here. That's not the case on, I don't even think, most bikes, but it is the case on this bike. Then the other thing I'm doing right now, I've just been, I'll put this down. I've been cleaning up the tank. I just wanted to clean it up just to, well, have it look nicer, to, you know, to be encouraging, because I want to be encouraged while I'm doing this. I've got some of this Mother's Chrome polish on here, and there was a whole bunch of like gunk on it before, and I got most of that gunk off, so I think that's going to clean up nice. And then in the inside of the tank is really nice. I'm not even going to have to de-rust it. And then I want to put a layer of Carnauba cleaner wax on it, just in case, like I just did, in case I spill something like brake fluid or something. You get that protective barrier from the wax that's on it, and it might buy you a couple seconds to wipe that shit off before it ruins the paint. That's why I wax these things during the winter, even though nobody's seeing it and it's just gonna get covered in dust. I put that shit on because it gives you that, oh shit, 5 seconds, grab a towel, get that off before it destroys something. That's why I want to keep that wax cover on things. So I wish I had those insulators, because I really want to get this on, and I really think I can get this started today if I put myself to it. But I don't have the insulators, so I'm not getting the carburetor on. So I'm pulling the brakes off right now, and I wasn't actually certain that I actually wanted the Buccaneers to win this Super Bowl, because I really don't care much about the NFL anymore, because I find it pretty boring. However, I did smile when Brady threw that touchdown, so I know I want the Buccaneers to win this, because Brady just makes people so mad, because he's just so much better than everybody else. And probably 5 years ago, I would have been mad at him, but I've just realized there are people that are much better than me at everything I do, including this, including everything I do. So I just want to see him fucking win, because it's funny to me. So I've got the, I took the right caliper off, and I was able to get some free movement on both of the pistons inside of there. And I grabbed the old pistons out that I've got, which I'll probably just swap into this thing. And I'm going to pull the left one off next. I just wanted to see that I had free movement. I realized now I'm not going to be able to push the pistons on the other one. But I'm going to drain this system entirely, pull these things off, and I think we'll be good to go. One thing, I pulled this out because I did this once when I was fucking around with the SV's brakes, and I've heard that you can push out pistons with compressed air, and I've never done it, or I had never done it before, because there's two things that scare me: electricity and compressed air. Both of those things can kill you in a nanosecond if you don't appreciate and respect them. And I used to be a lot more reckless than I am, and I'm not that reckless anymore. I'm still pretty fucking reckless, but not as much anymore when it comes to those two things, because they scare me. However, this thing has a low volume, high pressure inflator on it. So if you take this little attachment, oh God, did I lose it? Oh no, it's still on there from the last time I did it. If you put that on the back of the caliper, you could push the pistons right out. Where I'd always been struggling with fucking pliers and rubber, trying not to nick them up or anything, it just plops them right out. It's fucking awesome. But I feel like when somebody hears that you can just shoot them out with compressed air, they don't realize what they're getting into. They put 100 PSI on there with a huge volume and just shoot the thing out and crack their teeth open. So I didn't want to do that, but I might do it again just because it's fun. I'm gonna get that left caliper off, and we're gonna see what we got inside of here. I've got one of the brake calipers disassembled, getting ready for cleaning. It's not actually as horrible as I expected it to be. However, I did have to destroy one of the boots getting in. I can't remember what these things are called. This thing, this sleeve is the word that keeps coming into my head, but I don't know if that's exactly correct. I remember trying to clean up my old ones, and I ended up buying new ones. I grabbed some parts from my brakes, which I may end up using here. I forgot I had these brand new brake pads. However, these things look like they've barely been used, so these will be going back in. I basically had to destroy the two pistons on this one to get them out. Now I've got 4 pistons total. I know that I watched these pistons because I was pumping the brakes when I had this off, and these I think are going to be able to come out easier. But basically, you can still probably use these, but I had to grip these metal to metal to get these things out, and it was not easy. I was not able to grip it with this piece of rubber, and I was actually trying to do the little air pressure trick, and I was having no luck with it. I know I've got 4 pistons I can replace out of the 6. This boot unfortunately died on the way out. That's some of that 38-year-old rubber that is going to die on the way out. This one, I think if I push it, yes, okay, I think I can push it back and forth enough. You can already see this boot's gonna die. So if you're doing these, it's likely your boot is going to die. I'm not gripping this hard. But these rubber pieces are probably going to die. This one's actually in really good shape. I just see some goop on it, but not not too bad. This rubber, huh? We going. These have to be replaced 100%, but they're not going to be replaced until I get the thing to run. Let's take the pads out. So there we've got our caliper. I kind of want to try this one more time because it's fun when it works, and I know that I saw those pistons move, and I have my safety glasses on, so I think I can do this. Damn it! I should be wearing a respirator at this point. All right, well. Oh, see, it pushed this one. It didn't push this one. All right, I gotta get those out. Get the rubber. These actually look pretty good. All right, good. I've got a couple pistons in the spare that if I gotta destroy one or two of them, well, I destroyed two of them, that one is gonna be able to work again. Now I just gotta get this one out, and I'll give them a bath. All right, ultrasonic time. Fronts or lefts are going up front. Rears are going behind. So Super Bowl has already been relegated to the smaller screen because I went back to watching reruns of Internet Historian because they crack me up while I'm watching. Or not while I'm watching, while I'm doing this. So what I think is that I'm going to take these pieces and, ooh, you gotta come out here. I'm gonna wash these in the sink, and, well, after I go blow them out. Oh shit, there's still a lot of shit in there. So yeah, I'm gonna wash these out in the sink here, like that, da-la-la-la-la, blow them all around. And I got the compressor going out here. And I just brought this car in. It's -10. This thing did not want to start. Jesus Christ, it's so fucking covered in salt. Anyway, then after I rinse these things out, I'll go nuts with it on this, and then I'll do one last run in the ultrasonic, and then we should have some pretty clean calipers. These were in a lot better, the fluid inside was in a lot better shape than I expected them. I expected just straight up mud. And I know the rear is gonna be that way, but I'm not touching the rear for now, so just doing these. This coronavirus fucking quarantine's gotta end at some point because I'm in my basement by myself. I'm a 33-year-old man. I'm watching fucking Britney Spears videos waiting for this fucking ultrasonic to finish, and I am just losing my fucking mind. I'm alive and some people aren't, so I should probably shut the fuck up and deal with it. If you watch this far, thanks for watching.